You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Hey everybody, it's Brian Burns and welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. This week I got a buddy of mine, a lifelong sales rep, on the phone today. And we're going to talk about network and net worth and how important it is. And the thing is, we don't invest in it until we need it. And then it's just too late at that time. This is coinciding with a course that's been sponsored by one of my partners. And you can get it for free if you like. All you have to do is go to my LinkedIn profile. You'll see a blog post called How to Leverage AI to Crush Your Number. All you have to do is put a comment in there and then send me an email via LinkedIn. I'll reply back with the coupon code and it will save you the total cost. So the course will be totally free. It'll show you how you can use AI to manage your network and your net worth. And we're going to talk about several use cases of where having connections and interpersonal relationships and being able to give before you get has really helped. And I've been doing a lot of research on this, and we've got to understand that our brains are still these primitive little things that there are. We are part of tribes. And you look at this in politics and sports and countries and trade wars. We see it all the time. It's us versus them. And that's what's in the way of starting sales. So what do we have to do? We have to find commonality. We have to build relationships. We have to give before we can get. We're going to be talking about that, and that's what the course is all about, is how do you leverage this at scale? How do you make the machine do all the work for you at night? So in the morning, you get an email of exactly what to do. I got the course. It's going to really spent a lot of time on it. We have the guy who wrote the software showing it to us, and you can actually look at it in your CRM and see the level of connections that you have to each of those accounts and connect up with your team. So let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end and give you some updates on all the other courses that are going on and the things I'm working on. Let's get into the interview. Hey, let's talk about keeping your social network warm. I see a lot of people doing this only when they need it. I think that's the last time or the hardest time to do it, because people are like, oh, you want something. When you get that call that you haven't heard from somebody for a year or two, or you get the email from somebody, hey, can you be a reference for me? And it's like, did we work together? And I get it a lot, because I got a podcast. You hear all kinds of people like, I got one actually this week. This guy who blew me off a year ago, I had him on the show, and it was just too early. The product was too early. I asked for a copy. He just blew me off. But of course now it's ready, and now he wants help again. And I'm like, not top on my list, I'll tell you. How do you do it, and is it important to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been critical to me throughout my career. I remember working at Oracle, and when I was at Oracle, I continuously reached out to my distributed network of contacts that was in the DC area, because people are moving jobs all the time, and they're moving jobs even within the same company. So, I remember when I got into the business intelligence space, I knew a little bit about it, but reaching out to other people that I'd worked with previously and say, hey, did you work with the Department of Justice before? Who did you do that deal with? Because I'm trying to penetrate a different part of the DOJ, and maybe you can give me some hints and tips. So being able to reach out to people, or as I just mentioned to you before this call, and I reached out to a fellow that I'd worked with at IBM, and I said, hey, I'd like your opinion on this compensation plan that I'm taking a look at another company. So just being able to get feedback from people on their opinion is valuable.
And it is, because let's face it, when the people talk about getting a job, filling out an application is a waste of time. And, when you talk about people getting into college, I've had this system that I've taught people about, how to get into a great college through the back door, and people just roll their eyes. And I go, oh, it works. And, you and I had a personal thing with somebody in your life who wanted to go see a particular surgeon that I was able to do within 10 minutes while we were having coffee, where, the direct open front door didn't work. And I think people underestimate how the real world works. The real world does not work through formal channels. The real world works through personal relationships, personal connections that people have with each other. And if you don't keep them alive, they come across as just a big ask and not a give.
Oh, I agree 1,000%. I was, last year when I was trying to put together a deal for a Maryland company, I reached out to a small veteran disabled owned enterprise. I had signed this person up as a reseller when I was at IBM a number of years previously, but we remained in contact with each other. I think we formed a personal friendship built on a professional relationship. He is a retired colonel, and I value his input and his opinion of certain situations. So getting his opinion of where an agency is in terms of technology procurement was important to me, but also at a personal level, he had shared with me some things going on in his family, and I had shared with him things going on in my family, and we enjoy having lunch together every now and then. I obviously enjoy seeing him at trade shows. So expanding that network of contacts can never hurt. In fact, it always has helped me.
And that's it. And I think a lot of people, and I've probably been a victim of this early in my career, is being more of the lone wolf, be like, here, I'm here to sell. I'm here to make my number. I'll be here for 2 years, then I'll go do something else. And you don't make the investment in those connections. You and I, we've known each other longer than most of the listeners who've been alive. So, but that network is insanely valuable. And now today, it is so much easier through, digital channels. Now, a lot of people don't pick up LinkedIn until they're looking for a job. And there's almost 2 categories of LinkedIn users. And I warn people, if you're not currently active on LinkedIn, be careful if you start to be active, because your manager is going to see that you're active and think you're looking for a job. So you got to be active for reasons other than changing your jobs, because it's not a resume anymore. It's your web page.
Yeah, I agree. And being able to tell your manager, hey, look, this is my strategy. This is how I'm reaching out to XYZ company. And as you'll notice, if you're looking on what I'm doing on LinkedIn, I am not going for him directly or her directly. I'm going around them, because when they look at me, they're going to see, wow, all these people connected to Brian. There must be a reason for that. Either good technology reasons, good business reasons. Maybe they just like him. They got to know him personally, whatever. But when they see that web of people building around, then that senior manager will be more likely to say, hey, yeah, I'll connect with him. And if your boss is looking at that, then he knows that you're strategically moving sales to the next step.
Yeah, and I see it all the time now with people who want to be on the show. I can almost tell, by who's viewed my profile that, they're going to hit me up to be on the show. And, obviously I check out their profile right before I interview them. My process is LinkedIn profile, company profile. If they've written a book, I do that. I go on YouTube. I search for what they've done on YouTube because I can very quickly get what they're talking about. Then I go on to iTunes and I listen to them if they've been interviewed by somebody else. So I can kind of get a sense of their expertise, what they're into, what they care about. And people don't really do this, and I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people and I recently, put I'm hiring on my LinkedIn profile. So I got a bunch of people and I had a couple of phone calls and not one took the time to listen to the podcast. And it's like, well, you might want to do that before we have a conversation. You might want to check out people. And then everyone says, well, how do I learn about this technology or this company? I go on YouTube. This is what every time I started doing Facebook ads, and I can't believe people pay other people to do Facebook ads. Because all I do is I bring up one window with the Facebook ad manager and another window with YouTube, and I say, okay, this is what I want to do. Boop, 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 done. And in a half hour, I've got, Facebook ads running, where other people would go hire an agency to do that. Or, people are misunderstanding how powerful and easy things are today versus the way they used to be.
Well, to your point also, there's just a lot of people that just don't do their homework.
No.
You have to do your research, have to do your homework, and by investigating these different areas where, your potential customer or your existing customer could have been recorded or could have said something, you have to be a informed vendor to your customer. And if you're not, then you become a commodity like everybody else. So you want to stand out. So the way to stand out is to be informed and to be responsive. How many people do we know that don't get back to people or don't get back to people in a timely manner? So checking out these different sources of information and being able to have a conversation with the person that you met, I think is very valuable. I'll give you a story. So I was putting a big deal together for a large defense agency, and I had managed to network my way to the point where I was going to have a meeting with the commanding general of the agency, which I was shocked and pleased that I was able to do that. When I got to that point, the issues that I wanted to talk about that were, talking about a software sale, if you will, his issues were a lot higher level and they were also a lot more political. He was talking about the impact on his organization from Capitol Hill. He talked about how the biggest issue in his organization was the fact that in a particular product area, people were retiring and that he was losing that skill set. So he shifted the tables on me during the meeting and said, how can you work with my team, my organization, so that we continuously have people with newer skill sets coming on board to keep my command functional so that when I go to Capitol Hill, I have good news to report. And of course, those are things that I had to do a little tap dancing, but I did get back to him and put a plan together. But you always have to be able to anticipate those things, and you can't unless you're leveraging your network and unless you're researching like crazy about who you're meeting with.
Right. And it's not hard. Everybody says, well, how do you find out this or how do you find out that? We've had Google for almost 20 years. All you have to do is Google that person's name and the company. Okay. And then there's all this news tab. I hit that. I hit the video tab. I see what they're talking about on YouTube. It might be a couple years old, But let's face it, a lot of people's opinions don't change that fast. And you get a sense of their personality. What do they care about? What level do they talk at? Are they talking at a political level, a technical level, a financial and economic level? What turns them on? How fast do they talk? What likes and dislikes do they have? Their personal gestures. All of that stuff is now visible. And then, finding out, you get a lead. What do most people do? They'll just call the lead or reply to the lead and do no research and find out, is this really a lead or is this just some out of work consultant, looking to get education or possibly a job? All of this stuff is so easily accessible today that I don't think people are leveraging it.
And the customers, I agree 100%. And the customers often look to us as vendors. And unfortunately, the expectation of the person you're talking to on the phone of salespeople has been set by the salesperson that called before us, right? And if that was a bad experience, or if that person was ill-informed, then they've lowered their expectation of what they're going to get out of me, even though they don't know me. So I have to go in there better prepared, so that if I get the opportunity to engage in a meaningful dialogue with this valuable decision maker, that I have something to say that he cares about. I have information for him. That general that I mentioned before, I was able to get back to them and come up with a creative plan of how I talked to a sales rep that was selling our technology to a nearby university. And I said, can we get some of those profs that are using our technology at the university to make good referenceable statements about our technology? Because this customer is about 5 miles down the road, would love to be able to use that. Well, it went to the next step where we were able to set up an exchange program where the people at that agency went to that university, got trained on the technology that I was selling, and went back to the agency, was able to refresh with more people constantly that were trained to offset the people that were retiring. Everybody was happy. I started getting more sales. The commanding general was happy because his problem was slowly being solved, but it takes networking and coming up with really creative solutions, and also cooperation from your internal team of people that may not be in your circle.
That's it. I think people overlook that. A lot of people talk about, staying in touch with, your college friends, but does that continue? Does it continue, all the people that you work with? Are you connected with every person at your company on LinkedIn? Are you connected with all your customers on LinkedIn? Are you connected up with all your prospects on LinkedIn? Are you following all your prospects? Are you getting daily updates on what they care about and what they're talking about, so that you're talking to them about what they care about and not you, not your product? And I think the people, those connectors, like in Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, he has this concept of the connector. And the connector is, we've seen it in our careers with certain like headhunters. Those people, they are at the center of, the network, because they're talking to everybody. They know every job that's open. They know everybody who's looking. They know everybody who's successful, everybody who's struggling. You need to be that in your territory enough so that when you need it, it's there, as opposed to when you need it, you have to go and rebuild it.
Yeah, the network has always given me the why. It's given me, why are they doing this? Why are they acting on this? Sometimes it's a downsizing, sometimes it's hiring, sometimes it's a merger. I mean, how many times have we had deals die because a merger takes place. It doesn't mean the company doesn't need the technology. It means they can't do it right now because their funds are tied up because of this merger or acquisition. Knowing that kind of information gets you in front of the situation, shows your boss that you're informed about where it is, so that we can properly forecast when deals are going to drop and happen.
Right, and nobody wants to give bad news. So if you've got to have the back door, because let's face it, if you're hiring somebody, you don't call the references that you're given. What you do is you find a backdoor reference. You want somebody who tells you the truth, not somebody who's been coached on what to say. We all want to know what the real story is, and the real story is not what's on the news. The real story is what people are really talking about, and that is what the value of your network is. And if you're not investing in that, if you're not meeting people constantly, taking them out to lunch, happy hour, whatever, and helping them, because we all see this in our social life, right? There's typically a connector in our circle of friends, the person who always has the party, the person who always is initiating social activities. And in a way, we kind of have to do that. And, in the deals that I've done through my career and the relationships that I've built, it's when somebody calls me and they say, hey, I just got laid off, or I just got put on a plan, or my company is having a hard time, I jump on it. I don't put that into voicemail and go, oh, I don't want to spend an hour helping this person out. I go, okay, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Okay, here's 5 people I know. Why don't you use my name? They'll talk to you, and try and help them as much as possible. Because the thing that I've always remembered, and there's still 2 people in my life after 30 years that I helped move, because I was one of the people who, helped people move. Remember in your 20s when you couldn't afford a mover?
Oh yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
And I was lifting sofas for a lot of girlfriends.
Well, you know what happens, right? They ask 5 friends and 2 show up, right? So all of a sudden they have the U-Haul truck, and they've got half the staff that they need. And let's face it, some people have some pretty heavy stuff, and
But the people that help them move, they don't forget that.
They don't.
And it's the same in business.
Right.
If you can get out of your comfort zone and just regularly reach out to people, not necessarily asking about things, just trying to connect, trying to keep the relationship alive as much as possible, taking an interest in what they have an interest in, then that pays dividends over the years.
Yeah, and today it's never been easier, and I think a lot of people, either ignore Facebook and LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, and clearly you can't do all of them, and but you have to do some of it, and I think if you're not leveraging it, you should, because even if it's not your game today, maybe you're in B2C, and Facebook's your bag, and that's where your market is. You've got to be active on it. I've got a friend who's a realtor, and she just cooks on Facebook. Why? Because, every friend has friends that have, baseball games and birthday parties and cookouts, and she's liking it. She's commenting on it. She's sharing it. She's building that tiny little deposit, so that when someone is asking, hey, I'm looking for a house, or I want to sell my house, she's the go-to person. Because
and there's an art form to that too. Not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but I had a very similar situation. A very senior realtor last week tell me a story. She said, Brian, it's not about me posting about all these new houses that I'm bringing onto the market on Facebook. She said, very soon people will tune out, not pay attention. It's about talking about the things that are important in my life that have happened on Facebook, and then to weave into that, oh yeah, by the way, I have this new house if anybody's interested in that particular area, or hey, I found a great mortgage broker. So they're focusing on developing the relationship. And oh, by the way, here's the business transaction that I want to tell you about.
And it's an ecosystem sell. I mean, real estate is clearly an ecosystem sell, because what do you have? You have mortgage brokers, you have house inspectors, you have title companies, and all of these people, have preferences. And they have people they like to work with, and they have people they don't like to work with. And let's face it, if you want to see a house, you don't go on Facebook. You go on Zillow, right? Or you go on Realtor.com, or you go somewhere else when you want to look for a house. When you want to look for a realtor, you talk to your friends of who do you trust, who knows the neighborhood, who's helpful, who's got their game on, who's going to tell me the truth, and who's going to help me get the best deal. Because the realtor has a disincentive to get you the best price.
So to that point, whether it's real estate or whether it's software for an enterprise sale, being able to be the go-to being on the list of go-to people for your customer, we all want to be on that list. We want to get that phone call, because they know that if there's anything related to, let's say, business intelligence software, software development tools, or servers, or whatever your specialty is, you want to be known as that go-to person. And besides, you may have invented it. You may be the best technical person in that area, period. But you also want a personal reason for that person to contact you. Oh, she's a great person. What a warm personality. He's a great guy. We chat all the time about, let's say, the Yankees or the Twins or something else, or family, while we're talking about business, so that you're on their go-to list. You know that they know that when something comes up, they look to you because you get it done. You're informed about the market. You're informed about the technology. You're informed about what they need. And that's why you're on the go-to list.
Yeah, and you gave when you didn't have to. You showed up to help them move, which is probably given too much. But, even if it's empathy, sympathy, acknowledgement of a life event, a heartfelt congratulations, instead of just overlooking it like most people do and just thinking about themselves, that you are part of their tribe. That you
sure.
are.
I mean, as you mentioned before, we're coming up to wedding season in May, right? So how many of our customers, have kids that are getting married, or they themselves have other relatives that are getting married? They've dropped that in a conversation. But because we're so busy trying to focus on, hey, I've only got this guy or this woman for 10 or 15 minutes, I want to focus on moving the ball forward and getting to the next. Okay, so we do that, but at the same time, we have to they just shared with us some very personal information. Knowing that, we go back and we can say, hey, how did that wedding go? And then again, we keep ourselves in a new category, or perhaps a better category, which is we're not just a vendor. We're a special vendor.
Well, yeah. If you think you're a vendor, then you're going to be replaced by a website. You have to be a conduit of business. You have to be the in-between between the company and the creator of a market. And when you can connect with, and certainly this time of year, there's a lot of things. You've got, high school and college graduation. You have weddings. You have, vacations. And, how many people post pictures of their vacation? What, 99%? And when people don't comment on it, they post it because they're having, it's a life moment for them. And when somebody that you haven't talked to in a year or two says, wow, that looks like it was fun, it's just this tiny little, human touch that takes you from, a complete, somewhat stranger or acquaintance back into the friend category. That was the first time I had my buddy on the podcast. We had worked together for a long time. A lot of interesting stories, and there was actually that networking event that helped to save his wife's life happened because of a relationship that I had with somebody at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Kind of somebody I met at a party, spent some time with him, and we became, very acquaintances at best. Happened to work right down the hall from one of the world's best brain surgeons, and was able to help his wife, and she's doing very well today. But it goes to show the power of networking, the power of connecting with other people, and the power of giving first and understanding that we are predisposed to be of separate tribes, but we have to work together, and we have to break through that separation and find commonality and to give to get. So about this course that I'm doing about AI, how to leverage AI to fill your pipeline and crush your number. This is by far the most powerful approach that I've taken. It's part of the Get the Meeting course, but now I separated it out because there's so much content, but it's going to be free to all the podcast listeners. All you have to do, go to my LinkedIn profile, Brian G. Burns on LinkedIn. You'll see my articles. My LinkedIn post will be the first one there. It'll have a AI kind of image, a big blue like network image, and it'll be titled "How to Leverage AI to Crush Your Number." Just simply go to the bottom of it, put a comment. Just say, thanks, I like it. Short comment. It doesn't have to be long. No big deal. And then send me an email saying, hey, I put a comment on it, and I will reply back with the coupon code that will get you the course for free. So this will save you $250. Okay? It's a 6-month course. The partner that I'm working with will be giving the office hours, not me, every Thursday of each week, even more office hours than usual. So 6 months of that. And also the founder of the company, if you upgrade or do the trial, it doesn't cost you any. They have a free version, a trial version for a month, and he'll extend that trial version. All he asks is if you would just let him give a demo to your boss to show them the more advanced team-oriented capabilities. And this is much more powerful than Navigator. I like Navigator. I've been a big Navigator user ever since it came out. But Navigator has its limits, and it doesn't do a lot of. It doesn't tell you what to do. You have to. It's great for building lists, right? It's great for searching. It's great for getting a lot of contacts. But, it doesn't give you phone numbers, doesn't give you email addresses, doesn't really give you Twitter stuff, doesn't give you company news. It's all in different places. It's super expensive. This product is not. This product is really cool. And it also shows you the relationships within each account and will color code the ones where there's risk. Because the number one reason that your deals will not close or will get stuck or lose to no decision is because there's not enough coverage within the account, meaning you tend to stick with one person. It's natural. That it's what they want you to do. It's what you feel comfortable doing, but it's deadly. And it's the number one cause of deals either dying or being delayed. And here we are at the end of Q1, and we can't have that happen. Also, if you want to get in on, start the conversation, get the meeting, just order it this week. It's a 6-month course. Price is going up April 1st. I know it's the end of the quarter, but I've got to get moving on this course. The value is in the office hours. People are getting insane results. I'm getting daily emails from people saying, I've been chasing this person for 2 years, and now I'm having lunch with them. just because of what you showed me how to do, how people behave, and how to sell both naturally and scientifically and as a human being, not a pitch person. We've been taught all the wrong things for so long. There is a natural human way of connecting with people and building a relationship. So if you want in on that course, 6 months long, it's going up. April 1st, a big bump. So just lock in now. You can do it over the 6-month payment plan or pay up front, up to you. But that's going up. Also, Closing the Complex sale is really cooking. We had our first office hours last Friday. It's in the course now, so just go in the course. All the way to the bottom is office hours. Make sure you're checking out our partners. Discover.org is generating incredible content, unbelievably great content, ebooks, all free stuff. Check that out at discoverorg.com. Co-Video's got a trial. I'm sharing some of the videos on LinkedIn. The feedback is phenomenal. People are like, now I'm kind of getting video email. Video email could be your superpower this year. It could be the way that you break in and cut through the crap and break the ice with people. So give it a month. Give it a trial. You know, you have nothing to lose. We all have cameras on our computers. Give that a try. Also, I got the CMO of Gong.io on the B2B Revenue Leadership podcast this week. He's going to tell his story, and it's a really interesting story. The guy, I wish I had him as my CMO. Unbelievable. He's aggressive like a sales guy, but also has intense marketing chops. So that's it. Let's stay connected. Make sure you get the free course. I don't know how long I'm going to leave it open for free. The coupon's going to be limited, so make sure you take care of that this week. Just put a comment and send me an email in LinkedIn, and I'll send you the free coupon for it. Thanks for listening.
I want to know the truth, because deep down in places that you don't talk about at team and management meetings, you want me on that call. You need me on that call. We use words like fleet view, volume control, total cost of ownership. We use these words as a backbone of a life spent negotiating something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor inclination to explain myself to people who rise and sleep under the very blanket of revenue that I provide and then question the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, may I suggest you pick up a phone and make some sales calls. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you're entitled to.
Did you expense the lap dances?
I did the job I was hired.
Did you expense the lap dances?
You're goddamn right I did!